Welcome to the 700 Club. For today's top headlines, let's go over to the CBN News Desk.
Thanks, Gordon. Lawmakers are aiming to boost the COVID relief stimulus checks to Americans. The House of Representatives passing legislation upping the amount to $2,000. This as December is now the deadliest month of the pandemic and a post-holiday COVID surge looms. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The Democrat-controlled House of Representatives voted Monday to increase the amount of individual relief payments to $2,000, an effort President Trump had been pushing. But it's unlikely to pass the Republican-controlled Senate. The legislation comes one day after the president signed a sweeping coronavirus relief bill into law, which provides $600 in direct payments for Americans who earn less than $75,000 a year, enhanced unemployment benefits, eviction protection, and small business loans. Struggling Americans say the help is needed now more than ever.
I worry and I care about myself and my family. We need COVID relief so bad.
December is now the deadliest month of the pandemic, with 65,000 COVID-related deaths since the first of the month. The forecast for the remainder of the month looking grim.
As we get into the next few weeks, it might actually get worse.
Millions of Americans traveling by air and road over Christmas and New Year's, despite advice from the CDC about holiday gatherings. On the vaccine front, over 2 million doses have been given in the U.S., falling far short of the 20 million the White House aimed for by the end of the month.
20 million doses will be distributed to states by the first week in January. That's where we are.
And in California, where cases are surging, hospitals are turning some ambulances away. Officials extending lockdowns in some counties, fearing the worst is yet to come. Meanwhile, it's not clear when Americans can expect those $600 stimulus checks. Earlier, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin suggested it may only take a week or so for money to start going out. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
The House of Representatives voted to override President Trump's veto of a defense spending bill Monday. He vetoed the bill because it did not repeal protections for social media companies, something lawmakers say has nothing to do with national defense. The president also cited provisions to rename military bases named after Confederate generals. The Senate will take up the veto later this week. Investigators are still looking for a motive in the Christmas Day bombing in Nashville. Officials say 63-year-old Anthony Quinn Warner died in the blast. His father once worked for Southern Bell, which later merged with AT&T, but they can't say if that's why he set the bomb off in front of the AT&T building. The New York Times reports Warner told one friend that he had cancer. He gave away his car and his home in the weeks before the attack, reportedly telling one neighbor that Nashville and the world, quote, is never going to forget me. President-elect Joe Biden is accusing the Trump administration of not communicating with his transition team, specifically the Department of Defense and Office of Management and Budget.
Right now, we just aren't getting all the information that we need for the from the outgoing administration in key national security areas. It's nothing short, in my view, of irresponsibility.
Biden claims defense agencies suffered massive damage to capacity and morale in the last 4 years. We're just 1 week away from the crucial runoff election in Georgia, which will determine the balance of power in Washington. As CBN's Eric Phillips reports, heavy hitters from both parties are there to rally voters.
This will be the president's second trip to Georgia to campaign for Senators Loeffler and Perdue. Ironically, some are fearful that his involvement may hurt more than help in an election where turnout is everything. One of the president's latest tweets announced, on behalf of two great senators, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, I will be going to Georgia on Monday night, January 4th, to have a big and wonderful rally. So important for our country that they win. But some Trump supporters may be prompted to shy away from the polls because of his get out the vote message being overshadowed by his rhetoric.
They cheated and they rigged our presidential election.
Just a week and a half ago, the vice president also stumped in Georgia.
And I'm here because we stand with Senator David Perdue and Senator Kelly Loeffler. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting for every legal vote in America.
Not to be upstaged, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris appeared in the Peach State just days before Christmas on the trail to rally support for Democrats Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock.
Everything is at stake. Everything that was at stake in November is at stake leading up to January 5th.
She followed her soon-to-be boss, who was there days earlier.
It's time to stand up. Take back our democracy. Send me these two men, and we will control the Senate, and we will change the lives of people in Georgia.
Georgia was thrust into the national spotlight after none of the candidates in the state's two Senate races won 50% of the vote on November 3rd. Now, Loeffler and Warnock and Perdue and Ossoff are going head-to-head in these state races with national implications. More than 2 million Georgians have voted early since December 14th.
It has certainly brought a lot of attention to the state of Georgia, and it really drives home the fact of how important it is to get out and vote.
I've been studying some of the recent polls, and granted, they have to be taken with a grain of salt, right? Some say Republicans are ahead, others have Democrats up, but there's one thing they all agree on, and that is candidates in both races are within a few razor-thin percentage points of one another, meaning these races will continue to be tight all the way down to Election Day on January 5th. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
We're just a few days from the new year, traditionally a time for making resolutions. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson tells us that making changes today could prevent and even reverse the impact of one dreaded disease, Alzheimer's. Here's her report.
Just like a roof with dozens of holes can only work if all of them are repaired, Alzheimer's has dozens of causes that must all be addressed. After 30 years of research, Dr. Dale Bredesen believes the disease can possibly be controlled.
Let's make dementia a rare problem. Let's make Alzheimer's a rare disease, just as it should be.
His book, The End of Alzheimer's Program, lists the many different causes of Alzheimer's and describes how his Bredesen protocol can make a difference.
You can get your cognition back, and that's what counts.
Sally Weinrich says she experienced a reversal in her Alzheimer's symptoms after starting the protocol nearly 4 years ago and gives God the glory.
From helping me hear about Dr. Bredesen, from the chance to talk to you and share it with others, because I think that's God's wish for all of us to have health, and to help me treasure and appreciate my loved ones even more, who've been critical and very instrumental in my reversing of Alzheimer's.
The first step involves getting what's called a cognoscopy.
So we recommend that everyone who is 45 years of age or older consider getting a cognoscopy, and especially for anyone who has any Alzheimer's disease or dementia of any sort in their family, to get checked out early and get on prevention.
A cognoscopy tests for each of the dozens of Alzheimer's risk factors. Because we're all different, we'll each have different results. I took a cognoscopy and it was easy. I just gave blood samples and took a quick online MOCA test. That stands for Montreal Cognitive Assessment and ranges from 0 to 30. The blood tests measure your levels of good things like vitamin D, magnesium, and zinc, as well as bad such as toxins and inflammation. Also, your genetic risk.
It is a complicated disease. I think there's no one magic bullet.
Dr. Rebecca Ryder, who prescribes the Bredesen protocol, ordered my cognoscopy and reviewed my results with me.
Most patients will have a combination of things, like they'll have a little bit of hormone deficit, a little bit of blood sugar problems, maybe some concern for toxin exposure.
Based on my individual risk factors, she prescribed a program just for me using diet, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, supplements, and more.
We've seen some good reversals of cognitive decline here. I mean, I have seen the patients get better. Not all of them. You know, as with anything, the earlier you catch it, the better.
Even the people who test positive for one or both copies of the dreaded Alzheimer's gene can benefit from making life changes.
We can't control the genes we were dealt with, but there's a whole field called epigenetics, which says how our genes are translated. So those lifestyle factors, your diet, your exercise, all that affects what genes are promoted or not promoted for your health.
Now I'm one of the more than 5,000 people on the Bredesen protocol.
And those 5,000 people, some of them all the way to MoCA scores of 0 in late stage. Now, no surprise, the earlier that you get started, the easier it is to get positive outcomes. However, we have seen some people even in late stages with improvement.
Dr. Bredesen published 100 documented cases with before and after evidence of improved cognition, including Sally's.
Life's good. So no matter what stage you're at, or even if you have what society calls aging problems, I'd encourage all your viewers to just do it. Just do it. It's worth it.
Meanwhile, the doctor's research continues.
We're also, I should say, in the midst of the first trial in history in which, instead of predetermining a treatment, saying, okay, we're going to treat with this drug or that drug, we're instead looking at all of the different contributors to the cognitive decline for each person and then addressing those. And this is the way of the future. This is the way that people will be treating cognitive decline for years to come.
So instead of using a single drug to treat Alzheimer's, it appears a customized, multi-pronged approach could be the best strategy against this scourge. Lori Johnson, CBN News.